Our culture is set on helping us acknowledge our issues and cope with them. That's a great first step, don't get me wrong, but that's not the last step. What about overcoming them? This is the problem with our self-help culture. We have stopped short. The culture is here to help you cope with your problem, not overcome it. Jesus is not here to help you cope with your issues. He's here to empower you to overcome them. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Andrew Roman Show. Happy 2022. Can y'all believe it? I mean, honestly, I thought we were in 2020 this whole dang time. And then I was like, okay, here comes 2021. I'm like, 2022? Like, it's crazy that if you were born in 2000, you're already 22 years old. My gosh. And guess what? Next year, you'll be 23. Wow, the math just adds up, right? It's crazy, man. But either way, Happy New Year. You know, hey, don't forget to leave a review for this episode. Give it a like, subscribe on YouTube, because we're starting this year strong. I mean, if you're listening to this right when it comes out, it's a Monday. It's a new year. I mean, this is a time when it's like it's a make or break situation over here. Depends how you start your day, but today you're starting it strong. And don't forget, you can also leave a review on Apple Podcasts and follow me on Instagram at the Andrew Roman Show. I'd love to connect with you through there and really just love to hear from you of how the show is impacting your life and how you're sharing it with others. And, you know, last year we finished celebrating 100 episodes of this show. Today's episode 101 feels like a beginning, almost like a restart, isn't it? Like we should say like podcasting 101, almost like that. But as always, we don't skip a beat. It's Monday, so it's a new episode. Guys, I love New Year. I love New Year because it comes with so many new opportunities. You know, it comes a time when you write down your resolutions, write your goals, and I'm that type of person. Actually, I wrote them out a couple days ago. You know, because Monday, so right on the new day, January 1st, I got my journal out and I started writing all the things that I was grateful for this last year of 2021. All the great things that I can remember and say, wow, God, there's no way. And actually compare them. I go back to 2020 of what were my goals on 2020 and see how many of those I actually achieved. I won't say how many. Yeah, we all know that, right? We all know about resolutions and goals. I mean, we love starting resolutions that we'll never complete and starting goals that we'll probably just give up on. I've heard the gyms, you know, they over-equip their gyms because they have a plethora of new members. And by like the 7th day on the new year, they just put all the extra gym equipment back because that's how long it takes for people just to give up on. It's interesting. I saw an interview with Pete Davidson. He expressed, I think, what many people feel about New Year's. Miley Cyrus was asking him about his resolutions for 2022. And he's just like, you know what? I always make resolutions and I never end up following them. So my resolution for 2022 is not to make any resolutions. Look, I get the pessimism, right? Maybe you feel the same way. Maybe you're like, man, this whole thing about goals and resolutions, I don't know. Because to be honest, the whole new year, new me really ends up becoming new year, same me, right? We go through the same emotions, we go through the same goals, and we just keep giving up on them. No. The reason why is because I believe that there's a kind of a crucial problem within the self-development culture. We're going to call it throughout this episode, it's the self-help culture. And we're going to expose that today and understand how to actually make lasting change in our lives. Now, why is this relevant? Is it just because it's New Year's? Well, I mean, that's one reason why it's relevant. But the other one's because we're all trying to become better. I mean, just be honest with yourself. We're all trying to improve ourselves. And this is not just my personal opinion. With the self-help industry that took a bit of a hit back in 2020 with all the pandemic stuff, and then a lot of the conferences were canceled, all the quote-unquote conventional ways and self-help investments like coaching seminars and the such were just not able to happen. But the desire to improve one's health and overall life hasn't diminished at all. Actually, there's a study from Brain Minds that showed that millennials are willing to spend up to $300 per month on personal development. Take an inventory of your budget right now. You can probably name one or two, some type of subscriptions to improve your overall health. Now, whether you use that subscription is a whole different deal. Andrew, Jim, I've been paying for this. Come on, you've been paying for it too. I've been paying for this gym membership, one, and then a gym app, exercise app. That when I use it, it's great. Now, when I use it is always the question, right? Because I get it. It's just the way resolutions happen, right? And although throughout this episode, I'm going to talk about the problem with our self-help culture, we must acknowledge that there is a positive side in our self-help culture today. I really want you to pay attention because we're going to go through a lot of details, and it's an extremely deep episode that, to be honest, can be life-changing if you pay attention, because it's me preparing for it has been life-changing for me. And I know I speak in a lot of hyperboles, but this is not an exaggeration. I promise. This is the best episode you've had. Okay, maybe that's a hyperbole. But anyways, more than ever, our generation, and I speak of both the millennial and Gen Z because I'm kind of stuck in the middle, born 98. I don't feel like a Gen Z, but I'm not quite the millennial. So let's just stick me right in the middle. So our generation, the millennials and Gen Z, have brought to the surface issues that have been silenced with stigma and insecurity. Like admitting that one suffers from depression, anxiety, stress takes courage. And we see that a lot with our generation. Like from my memory, whenever one talked about mental health, one would think of clinical conditions, right? Like dementia, schizophrenia, or, what do they call it? Severe major depression, etc. Leaving quote unquote less serious things like just feelings of general anxiety or depression or being burnt out to be met with the told, what we all get told, just get over it. You're being too emotional. Have you ever been told that? Well, now the jargon of mental health is super commonplace to the average person. Like when one says that I have to take care of my mental health, it means what we all think. Managing stress and anxiety, going for a walk, exercising, or even traveling. And this generation has done a great step because here's the thing. They're significantly more likely, and I'm talking about Gen Z right now, than other generations, including millennials, to report their mental health. But the problem is they report it as fair or poor. That's found at a study by the American Psychological Association. Not even that, but not only are they just mentioning their mental health, but at least they're doing something about it. It's a step towards the right direction because when they report it, and that's at least 37% of Gen Z, along with 35% of millennials, report that they've received some type of treatment or therapy from mental health professionals, compared to 26% of Gen Xers, 22% of baby boomers, and then 15% of just older adults. Now, here's the thing. It doesn't take a genius to notice an interesting trend. We've never been more focused and so focused on improving our mental health, yet it seems that the very opposite is happening. Some 70% of teens across all gender, races, and family income levels say that anxiety and depression are significant problems that their peers struggle with. That's according to Pew Research Center. Just 45% of Gen Zers report that their mental health is very good or excellent, according to the American Psychological Association, and all other generation groups fared better on this statistic, when Gen Zers seem to be the most focused on mental health, including millennials at 56%, Gen Xers 51%, and boomers, they're like, man, I'm happy. I don't know what you're thinking about. I don't complain. I just work. They're 70% grateful, happy about their lives. On a serious note, we've all heard the statistics. I've done an episode on the suicide statistics that are on the rise. And there's so many factors contributing to this. We all know them, whether it's the consequences of the pandemic being obviously a major one, or stress from school, work, politics. It all plays into it. Yet there is a problem. At a time when we've never been so focused on mental health and emotional health, we seem to be at our worst. I heard a comedian tell it this way. Baby boomers were never too in touch with their emotions. They just kind of worked through it, and they let it out on their kids. And millennials are now so in touch with their issues that they seem to lose themselves in it and almost wear them like a badge of honor. Now we just go around the room saying all the things we suffer from. Oh, I suffer from this, or I suffer from that. It's not even about feeling a certain way in the moment. It's about being diagnosed for something or suffering from something. To be honest with you, there seems to be no end in sight. Our culture is set on helping us acknowledge our issues and cope with them. That's a great first step. Don't get me wrong. But that's not the last step. What about overcoming them? This is the problem with our self-help culture. We have stopped short. We have learned to identify with our issues and learn to say, well, it's just who I am. Well, I'm just a person who struggles with this. Or I'm just a person who, suffers from that. Or I'm a person who just, clinically this or clinically that. Now, hear me. Never in this episode have I said that the struggle is not real, that you're not really suffering from it. But when we accept our issues as our identity, then we only treat them with medicine, but never see true healing. For Christians, it seems like doesn't even make a difference. Whether Christian or not, culture has helped us acknowledge our issues and then identify with them as just part of who we are, so you never overcome it. Too often I hear the same person month after month go like, well, I'm still kind of struggling with anxiety, or I'm still struggling with this, or I'm still struggling with that. There's a problem when you're still struggling with the same problem. I'm not saying that it's not real. I'm just saying there's a little bit of a problem when you have the same battle like for several months on end with no improvement whatsoever, because that's the problem. Our self-help culture today has told you this is who you are. This is your identity. So how are you not going to be you? If you just happen to have mental health issues like over anxiety or depression, or you always feel constantly burnt out, or you're overwhelmed or overstimulated by relationships, or whatever the case may be, maybe true, maybe over-exaggerated, I don't know. You know your own situation. But how can you not be you, tells us the culture. The culture is here to help you cope with your problem, not overcome it. Jesus is not here to help you cope with your issues. Uh-oh. Did I just say that? Jesus is not here to help you cope with your issues. He's here to empower you to overcome them. I'm going to say that again. Jesus is not here to help you cope with your issues. Jesus is here to help you overcome your issues. Maybe the reason that you're not seeing a lot of change in your life every new year, and a new year is always the same me, is because we have separated self-help from self-discipline. Oof. Did I say that too? I know. I told you this episode was going to be deep. I told you. Did I not tell him? I told you all the time. Let me say that one more time. Maybe the reason that you are not seeing the change that you want, in Russian, we say is the word "kablitsky." I'm totally kidding. I just made up that word. But maybe the reason you're not seeing the change that you want in your life is because we have separated self-help from self-discipline. When self-help is detached from self-discipline, it becomes the opium of the people. Let me explain. It's attributed to Karl Marx, the founder of the thought of communism, the political thought of communism, Marxism more specifically, the infamous phrase, religion is the opium of the people, which was actually written by a German poet named Heinrich Heine. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, the meaning is that religion is the opium, the drug that people rely on to bring explanation and meaning to their lives, almost like a crutch, right? It's this addiction that they have that doesn't really help them, but it kind of, helps, quote unquote, bring meaning to their lives. But really, it's like a crutch. Similarly, when self-help is detached from self-discipline, it becomes the drug or the opium of the people. Without self-discipline, you can't bring lasting change into your life. No matter how many self-help conferences you attend, or how many self-help posts you share on Instagram, or likes that you do on Instagram, it doesn't matter. If you do not have self-discipline, you will not bring change in your life. All the issues that are exposed through self-help will remain issues without self-discipline. Your issues become a label you wear to just warn people how to interact with you, right? Because you're going to live with them. So it's just, you just label them and you're like, hey, just so you know, if you're going to be my friend, just don't take too long to respond to my text because I suffer from anxiety. Also, don't expect quick responses either from me because, well, I suffer from anxiety and I have to do things on my timeline. And if one day I treat you nicely and the next day I kind of treat you like crap, well, I hope you understand because I suffer from fill in the blank. Or I know I'm a Christian and all, but, based on my childhood trauma, this is just who I am now. And it's all kind of my parents' fault. And it's what can I do, right? Right. hold on a minute. Do we not believe that Jesus can heal trauma? Can he not heal mental health problems? Like, none of this is to discount the effects of trauma. Hear me, right? But are we to believe that God can forgive you and restore you from sin, but to heal you from trauma is too difficult for him? Is he not in the business of that? I heard a story of a young girl who experienced unimaginable abuse. Abuse that one wouldn't even want to start to describe. Since she was young, her father would sexually, mentally, emotionally, and verbally abuse her up until the age of 18 when she was finally able to move out. Many times she had to even make up excuses and stories of why she wouldn't go out and hang out with her classmates, of why she had to always go home, of why her father was so controlling and manipulative. He was mean, abusive. And in today's self-help climate, her story would continue to be one of just learning to cope with her trauma, never overcoming it. Maybe that's your story, or maybe it's part of it. Something that would just define her for the rest of her life. And it sure impacted her for years to come. It shaped her relationships, a divorce, her identity. But then came Jesus. Now in her late 70s, this woman has held a world-renowned ministry for over 40 years, helping Christians around the world live a life that's restored through Christ. Her name is Joyce Meyer. In her own words, she says, "It may seem impossible, but God's truth has set me free from a life of pretense and lies and has restored my soul. I am living proof that nothing is too hard for God, and that no matter how you've been, what you've been through, or how bad you're hurt, there is hope." That's why I'm telling my story, she says. You need to know how good God is and that your struggle is worth it. And if you will give your life to Christ and really trust God, then you can be completely healed and restored so you can live the life that Jesus died for you to have. How incredible. You see, Joyce Meyer understood the crux of the matter. Outside of Jesus, coping with your issues is the best thing that you can do. Like, I don't blame an unbeliever for learning how to live with your problems. Like, without Jesus, accepting our current state of who we are as who we will always be is really the only solution, with minor improvements. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not like you can't be a better person without Jesus, but you can't see full and complete healing as Jesus offers. Again, I don't blame someone who doesn't know Jesus to just accept who they are. But when you come to Jesus, something powerful happens. This is life-changing. 1 Corinthians 5:17 says, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old has gone and the new is here." Now listen to this, because we don't really understand the implications of this verse. If you grew up in church, you've heard it. Oh yeah, everything, the new creation, the old has gone, the new is here, but I don't even know what it means. Well, we're going to break it down. When you place your trust in Jesus, you are born again. Your spirit is born again. The old has gone. Your old person, the one with the issues, the one that always dealt with anxiety, the one that was depressed, the one that was bitter, your new identity is no longer your issue. That person is gone. You're new. Your spirit is born again. Your slate is wiped clean. I have a feeling that maybe there's someone that needs to hear this. I think maybe for too long you've labeled yourself with your issue. You've embraced it. It's almost like a coping mechanism now. You've labeled yourself negatively and you're just like, hey, this is who I am. You've accepted what people say about you, that you'll never be good enough, that abuse, that trauma, you'll never be able to heal from it. You'll never be able to overcome it, that it will just be with you for the rest of your life and it will affect you and you can never get past it. You've accepted the lie that this is how things will always be for you and will continue to be. Here you are again, struggling with the same thing. You'll never be better. You'll never be able to maintain healthy relationships, be responsible, be loved, or be whole. You'll always be broken. That is a lie. Because with Jesus, all that was empty inside now overflows. All that was broken, he has made whole. And all that was dark, his light has overthrown. And all that was lost, he has now restored. This is your new reality as a believer. With this new reality, it does not mean that we don't have issues. Hear me out. But it does mean that your issues are no longer part of who you are. And now you can overcome them. Because before you had no choice, right? You were your issues. It's just who you are. I mean, you can't self-help the flesh. The flesh is dead. You gotta kill the flesh and you gotta be born again. And now you have the chance to overcome your issues. Galatians 5 chapter 1 says this, "For freedom Christ has set you free. Stand firm, therefore, and do not submit yourself again to the yoke of slavery. Christ has set you free. Now stay free." Here comes the self-discipline part. Because remember, self-help, detached from self-discipline, becomes a drug of the people. Something that we linger to, something like a crutch that we'll post it on Instagram, but we never really change for the better. Romans 12:2 says this, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind." You want this new year to also be a new you? Accept the reality of who you are in Christ and have the self-discipline to renew your mind. That's the key. You cannot claim to be a Christian and think like the world. Don't stop with just acknowledging your issues. Overcome them with Christ. We don't like the self-discipline part of freedom, but I have good news for you. If you're a Christian, then self-control is part of the fruit of the Spirit. The more time you spend with the Holy Spirit, the more self-control you will have. So I challenge you today, make a note of every issue that you have accepted as permanent. Relational, personal, financial, mental, you name it, whatever it is. Put it before God and let Him give you the strategy that you need to stay free. Don't hesitate to send me a DM with your story, and I'd love to pray with you and walk with you, because this new year can be different. You don't have to accept a lie in the self-help culture that says you will always be your issues. You will always have to struggle with this. Now everyone around you has to cope with it as well. You can be new. You can be different. In fact, all you need is Jesus. And when you have Jesus, He makes you new. Now, He will empower you to stay free, to have the self-discipline to renew your mind. So this new year, let's be a new you. We'll see you in the next episode of The Andrew Roman Show.